Okay, here's a little maple syrup video for all you stuck at home, bored. Here's a little tour of Concar Acres, Gravenhurst, Ontario. It's our little family property, and we like to have as much fun out here as possible, and one of those things that we like to do in the spring is some maple syrup. Just a quick note, I'm not a maple syrup expert. I'm not a commercial operation. Just kind of learning as we go. Just a little hobby. So don't take this too seriously. If you're a maple syrup expert and I'm doing something wrong, that's okay. Let me know. I'm still learning. Anyway, there's the barn. There's our cabin on the property, and that view is looking towards the road, the main road from town, but you don't think you can see the road. Anyway, here's the south view of the property, and we'll just walk towards our little sugar shack here and give you a little tour of what's going on here today. It's a beautiful sunny day right now. It's about 5 degrees. It's going to go up to 8 or 10 apparently today, but it's blue skies. It's late March 2020. Here is a view of the sugar shack. This is where we do all of our boiling. It's the first season we've had the shack ready to go, and we used to do this outside, and the elements often were not fun. Cold, rainy, snowy, sleet for hours on end. Was fun the first day, but several days of that kind of wore you down. So here's the sugar shack, and give you a little tour. So these are 55, almost 60 gallon barrels actually, where we store the sap after we've collected to stockpile and ready to boil when we have enough. Both of those are currently full, so there's about 120 gallons there, and then we had maybe 10 or 20 more gallons in buckets inside when I got started this morning. So I'll show you how that works. I'm going to turn off the radio here just momentarily. So let's talk about the process, I guess. So we tap about 100 taps, not 100 trees, because some trees have 2 taps on them, but we have about 100 taps, and about half of our taps are using buckets, 3 gallon or 2 gallon or 3 gallon, I guess, the size. And you can see, because it's a nice beautiful sunny day, these trees are getting full sun, and we're starting to run again this morning. So probably this afternoon we'll have to go around and collect, or maybe tomorrow morning, see how it goes. So we've got about 40 or 50 taps with the blue buckets, and then we've got same amount about with these 1 gallons. It's kind of an interesting setup we did. We want to transition over to all blue buckets, the bigger buckets, in the next few years, just bits at a time over the years. These work well, and they work well for us. They just have to be collected more often because they fill up a lot quicker. So that's kind of the problem. But this uses a little different tap. It's called a hookless tap, and it's a lot narrower. You can see it just goes in, and then the bucket, I drilled a little hole, and that's all that kind of sits on the tap. But it works pretty well. All the syrup, or all the sap's confined. Nothing really gets into those. So we've got kind of different areas of the property where we've built some trails and stuff to get to trees. We'll do a little bit more every year. So we collect in the John Deere Gator with one of these 55 gallons on the back, and we go to section, tree to tree, and that's how we collect. Then we come back here and pour them in. That's I guess 2 days worth of collecting at this point. Yeah, so let's go inside. Just the sugar shack, give you a view of that. It's kind of made it a little bit more comfortable. Day like today, sunny's not bad, but when it's raining or snowing or sleet or cold, you know, you've got to boil when you got to boil, so you're stuck with the elements. So this has been a kind of a godsend this year for us. So here's the evaporator. I'll talk about that in a moment. Let me, it's gonna need some wood. It's important to keep this fired up and going. It's got to be constantly hot and burning to keep the sap kind of on a consistent boil. So we're using lots of scrap wood here, as you can see. And I don't want to overload this. If you overload it, it kind of brings the temperature down, and then the sap will slow down in terms of its boil, and it takes time to get back up. So just want to kind of consistently keep the wood in here and keep the fire consistently hot. That's kind of the goal. So you're always kind of monitoring this throughout the day. So as you know, the barrels at the window there they are, rigged up hose system. Used to do this manually by a manual pump, and it worked well, but it took time, and by the end of the day your arm was ready for bed. It's quite a workout. This year I got a little smarter. Found this transfer pump made by Milwaukee. Milwaukee, if you see this, let's talk about some sponsorship. Yeah, this thing works pretty amazing. It's basically just a transfer pump, and it works off of Milwaukee batteries, so you don't need any power. It's pretty amazing. You have an in hose, an out hose, so the in hose are coming out from the barrels, and the out hose, here it is. We pump directly into the warming bin here. So that's pretty cool. Made our life way more efficient, saving our arms, shoulders. So Milwaukee, thank you for making such an amazing products come in handy this year. So here's the sugar shack. It's not very big. You can get some people in here, some chairs, hanging out. Playing some Scrabble, playing some cards, maybe a little drink during happy hour. There's our Muskoka chair. That's Bella's hangout. She'll be here soon. We'll get some video of Bella, but that's her perch, and a Queenie on her Muskoka chair. Shout out to Home Hardware, McNaughton's Home Hardware, downtown Gravenhurst. New location, the old Stedman's V&S store. location, beautiful store. Shout out to McNaughton's Home Hardware, Gravenhurst, Ontario. So the evaporator, it's a 2x3 pan on top, kind of a barrel evaporator. It's made by Lapierre, big maple syrup company, manufacturer, equipment in Quebec, I guess. It's called the Lapierre Waterloo Small Evaporator. I bought this from a local distributor in Gravenhurst, actually just around the corner from where we are, about 10 minutes away. Sweetwater maple syrup. I believe the location is actually considered Bracebridge. Great people, great products, friendly. They'll answer all your questions. They've been a heck of a resource for me, and shout out to Sweetwater maple syrup. So this is the evaporator. As you saw, there's the warming bin on top, and this is it's about 7 gallons, 7 gallons, something along those lines. So it pre-warms the sap, so gets it warm, so you're not always shocking the main pan with freezing cold sap, which again will decrease the boil and take more time, right? So this is much more efficient. And the intent here is this is kind of a consistent draw-off system, which means you kind of want to set it so as the sap evaporates, you're putting in the same amount of sap. So this is kind of just testing it out and kind of figuring it out and getting it to stay at a certain level. It takes a little bit of time to figure this out, but once you get it consistently boiling, the fire's hot, you continually feed the fire, this slow little drip here, just consistent, right? So it's kind of hands off at this point. All I gotta figure out or do consistently is fill up the warmer and keep the fire stocked, so it makes life a little easier. So it's called continuous draw off, which is a pan. It's 2x3, 2 feet by 3 feet. It has these 3 chambers, right? So the raw sap comes into the first chamber, and there's a, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little hole here, a little hole at the end of the second chamber. So it kind of moves in this motion, and then at the end here you have your draw off tap. I haven't drawn off anything today. Time is it? It's about getting close to noon. At some point this afternoon I'll be in kind of draw off mode. So the intent here and what's supposed to happen and what does happen is as you work through these chambers, and the closer you get to the tap is the closest to maple syrup. So raw sap, closest here to maple syrup. And kind of the density and the sugar quantity or density is more here than it is over here. So the intent is get it to a point where you can slowly draw off. You're kind of consistently drawing off maple syrup as this thing works. And it works pretty good. It takes a while to get to the point of getting maple syrup in this corner. Usually 50 to 100 gallons of sap to get to that point. So it takes quite a long time to get to that point. So that's kind of the process. That's how it works. When I get closer to that point, I bring in the little tool here I built. It's the Filter King 2000. And what you do is put a felt filter here. So it comes here under the tap with a felt filter. You put the pot, the syrup goes through the felt filter to strain it, get out any of the niter and imperfections and all that kind of stuff, niter sand. And essentially the point of maple syrup. I'm pretty good at an eye at getting it close to maple syrup, and then what I do is take it home to the actual house and finish it off on a propane burner, and then I can measure it and get it exactly 66 bricks for which is the density of maple syrup. And this is kind of how we do it. It's I can't pull it out there. Oh, maybe I can. It's a hydrometer. Yeah, I don't want to break it. It's pretty fragile. It's made of glass. I'll show you later. I'll get it out in another clip. But it's a hydrometer which tells you the exact density, and it marks it 100% perfect, 66 bricks on a brick scale for maple syrup. So we know we actually have maple syrup. Anything less or anything majorly over that is technically not maple syrup. So that's what we try our ultimate best to do. So that's the process. Maybe if we do any collecting later, we'll get some video of that, some clips of that. I'll pause and I'll get out the hydrometer so I can show you that. Some of the artwork in the sugar shack. Our goal this year was to have people who visited us at the shack make some art and hang the art. But it didn't go too well. We had some few visitors at the start since COVID-19 and self-isolation and social distancing. We haven't had any visitors since then, so that's okay. Next year, the year after, we'll fill out the clothesline there, hopefully with more art from our visitors. Okay, so there you go. Any questions or comments, put them in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. And hopefully some more clips a little bit later as well. Thanks for watching. So here's the hydrometer I promised to show you. You can see it's made out of glass, so it's pretty fragile. It's weighted perfectly for maple syrup, 66 bricks, according to that red line. So what you do is you take the cup and you scoop up maple syrup, boiling hot maple syrup, right to the top, and you drop the hydrometer inside, and it floats, right? It floats based on density. So when the line of the maple syrup is right on that 66 brick line, you know with certainty you have perfect maple syrup, 66 bricks, and that's what this tool is used for. To do that. Otherwise, it's kind of just a guessing game. Some people go by temperature and that sort of thing, but this is the best way to do it. It gets you the most accurate results. So that's something I use at home. Again, I finish it off at that point at home using propane, much easier to control than the wood evaporator. So there you go, hydrometer. So the other question I often receive or people ask is how much sap does it take to make maple syrup? And kind of the typical ratio suggested is about 40 to 1, but that kind of depends on your trees, if they're hard or soft maple, the sugar quantity from year to year in the sap, but it's generally around 40 to 1. So if that means we have 120 gallons of sap, let's say, divide that by 40, that's going to approximately make us about 3 gallons of syrup. So it's a lot of work. That amount of sap for us is probably 2 days worth of boiling. So it's time, it's a lot of work. And as I tell everybody after doing this for a few years, I never complain ever about the price of pure 100% Canadian maple syrup in a grocery store. And quite frankly, to be honest, I think what they charge is too little. I can't imagine anybody making money off of the retail price of pure